actually wasn't all that long ago that Christianity hit the British Isles. The teachings of these early Christians blended nicely with the traditions already in place in the islands. One tradition that we're all very familiar with is that of the shamrock. To the early Celts, the number 3 was very magical, and you will see it in all of their artwork. The triple spirals, it's in, on the Celtic crosses. There's always something dealing with the number 3. But the shamrock was also used as a reminder of earth, water, and air, or past, present, and future, or sky, earth, and the underground. It was also a symbol of good soil. So if you had a field of shamrocks, you had a wonderful field. And it was also edible. Now, when the early Christians came, they took the image of the shamrock that was already in place there, and they used it to talk about the Trinity. And so we have this blending of the old and the new without really erasing the ancient. Because if you're in Ireland today, they still talk about the ancient traditions. And there are still trees that you do not remove or cut. And there are still prayers and things done at the wells. The ancient tradition is still very much there, but it's been blended in with Christianity. The desert mothers and fathers brought with them their love of the land, as we heard in songs and scripture today, their teachings of love, an understanding of our connection to all things, living a life of prayer, and a simple way of living. And all this blended together. And it brought a Christianity unique to the islands and far removed from the Roman Catholicism, which was to come later. And some of that Roman Catholicism attempted to change what was already established as a Christian faith. Like our Native Americans, the early Celts would offer prayers throughout the day. They would pray to their ancestors and to the gods and goddesses of their traditions. There were prayers for bringing the hearth to life in the morning and for snoring or banking the fire at night. There were prayers for shearing and milking and planting and baking. There were prayers for going to sleep at night and for rising in the morning. Their lives were based on this gratitude drawn from their early faith traditions mixed with the Christian traditions. I'm going to read for you a portion of a fishing prayer, kind of as an example of the mixture of the old and the new. Those of you, how many of you fish out there? Yeah, okay. You can take this prayer with you. The day of light has come upon us. Christ is born of the Virgin. In his name I sprinkle the water upon everything within my court or house. Thou King of deeds and powers above, the fishing blessing pour down on us. I will sit down with an oar in my grasp. I will row me 707 strokes. I will cast down my hook, the first fish which I bring up in the name of Christ, King of the elements. The poor shall have it at his wish. And the King of fishers, the brave Peter, he will give me a blessing. The line in here that connects the old with the new is the 707 strokes. You're going, I wonder why that's in that prayer. It comes from an ancient tradition of an early battle, like very early, like 2000 BC or something. But the invading people, the people who invaded from the sea during a pause in the battle, by tradition had to row out 707 strokes before the battle could begin again. I don't know why that happened. I think the Celts on land were praying to the gods and goddesses that big waves and storms would come up. But again, it's that tradition of linking the ancient with the new. Another prayer, which involves pre- and post-Christian thought, is the prayer for banking the fire at night. To bride and the sacred three, to save, to shield, to surround the hearth, the house, the household, this eve, this night, oh this eve, this night, and every night, every single night. Now, bride is the name given to either the goddess Bridget or Saint Bridget. The stories mix the two over the centuries. Goddess Bridget was the goddess of the forge and the hearth and battle and the family and lots of other things. She was well known. But Saint Bridget is a much younger person in Celtic tradition. Her father was a Druid, and she was one of the first converts to Christianity and was the founder of a lot of convents. And even in Scotland, you hear of Saint Bridget. She's so famous and well known. But again, it's that crossover between the ancient and the new. Can you imagine going through our day giving prayers for rising, for running water, our first cup of coffee, our first cup of tea, the shelter that protects us, the work we have, the ones who clear our roads and take our trash? This would really be praying without ceasing. I don't know how the Celts did it. I mean, they had prayers for everything. My intention was to try this for a day. Yeah. Try it for a day and see what happens. Needless to say, I wasn't real successful. But it made me aware of some things to add to my daily spiritual practice. It's interesting that there was no formal writing in the British Isles until the early Christians arrived. Everything was done by memory. And so when the early Christians arrived, they began to write down the stories. But many times they added a Christian influence to the ancient story. For example, there's a story of a son of Noah and his wives reaching the shores of Ireland after the flood. It's added to some ancient stories already in existence. There's also a story of Saint Bridget being the midwife to Mary during the birth of Jesus. Yeah, the blending of the old and the new. The old ways, however, always remained in the hearts of the people. They continued an intense love of creation and their place in it, and continued the call to gratitude and hospitality, and to include the ancient gods and goddesses in their prayers. So there is a story about a prayer form that I'm going to introduce to you and that I use a lot. And the story takes place in Ireland. It was during the gathering of the rulers at Tara. And the lesser nobles and kings began to complain about the high king, that he was taking land that did not belong to him. They argued for a bit and refused to enter the feast grounds. They decided that the proper order of things had been forgotten, and they would not continue to talk or feast until the issue was resolved. The high king called for an ancient wise man to come and to help them remember the proper order of things. This ancient man was Fintan the Wise. He told them how Over many lifetimes in different forms, he had been taught the proper order of things and how he had learned to look behind the masks that many had placed over their selfish hearts. He told them this as he carefully looked each person in the eye. Many could not look into the old man's eyes, for they knew their own hearts were not in the proper order of things. Fintan told the assembly to look in the 4 directions of Ireland for their answers. He went on to explain, "The East is the land of prosperity. It is in this direction that we look for the sacred in ourselves and others, and give thanks and express gratitude for our prosperity. The South is the land of the Oran Mor, the great song that began all creation. It is here we look for ways to live in harmony with all of creation, including ourselves, and ask for the wisdom and creative powers of the arts we need to live this way. The West," he said, "was the land of sacred knowledge and vision. To learn and to hold this knowledge was important indeed. The North is the land of battle, but not war among our neighbors, but instead to recognize and learn from a greater war within ourselves. If we learn to follow this proper order of things, then we can live in the center of this circle in right relationship with others, ourselves, and creation. We can remove our masks and costumes and begin to live authentic lives, following the proper order of things." It's kind of in this rambling way and story that I'm going to introduce you to the Irish spirit wheel. It's a way of prayer to help us maintain the proper order of things. The history of the wheel was based on this ancient story that Fintan told. And an author by the name of Frank McAllen, who has a background in psychology and Native American and Celtic spirituality, took the story and developed the wheel as a way of problem solving and prayer. This is the prayer I use almost every morning. It helps to set the tone for my day. The center, every wheel has that hub. The center can be our own personal sovereignty, which is important, but also the way to dwell in the sovereignty of Creator as Creator dwells in us. It is living in the truth of God's love and light and allowing that love and light to come from us as well. As we look to the east, and I think it's that direction, I'm hoping, as we look to the east, we pray to recognize this day the sacred in ourselves and others. We also announce our gratitude for our prosperity at whatever level that may be. As we look to the south, we thank the great song of creation for life and our creativeness and wisdom. And it is in that wisdom that we understand that sometimes a discord is important to the harmony. Looking to the west, we give thanks for the sacred vision and knowledge we have for problem solving and teaching. And to the north, we bring forth our courage to take a deep look into our hearts, to confront our hidden selves, or our egos, as some writers would phrase it. Doing this will help us move into the sovereign center of light and truth and beauty and living from our spiritual hearts. It is here we can be the change that we want to see and reflect the Creator's love. I brought a few copies of the wheel with me. I can place in the back. And you can always make copies if people want them. But I find that it helps me in my daily prayers as I think about the center and living in gratitude and harmony and knowledge and vision and having the courage to really look within myself as to what needs to be changed. I want to close this part, and then I'll also be doing the benediction, with a blessing from John Donahue. Some of you are familiar with his work. Autumn Kara is one of his books, which means soul friend in Gaelic, which is the name I gave to my residents. Before I start this, John has passed away, but he was a monk that lived in the west part of Ireland, and there's numerous books to his name. May the light of your soul guide you. May the light of your soul bless the work you do with the secret love and warmth of your heart. May you see in what you do the beauty of your own soul. May the sacredness of your work bring healing, light, and renewal to those who work with you and to those who see and receive your work. May your work never weary you. May it release within you well springs of refreshment, inspiration, and excitement. May you be present in what you do. May you never become lost in the bland absences. May the day never burden. May dawn find you awake and alert, approaching your new day with dreams, possibilities, and promises. May evening find you gracious and fulfilled. May you go into the night blessed, sheltered, and protected. May your soul calm, console, and renew you. Amen. And if we could turn to our last